So in this topic, we will look at the default VPC. So this is a part of Certified Solution Architect Associate exam. And what I find is a lot of people find this portion which has some piece of networking concepts linked difficult to gain understanding on. So VPC, as the name stands, it's called Virtual Private Cloud. So now what is the default VPC? And that is interesting for us to look at. A default VPC is like, take an example. Suppose when you create an account, okay? So example, you created a new account in AWS. When you create this, uh, by default, a VPC is automatically created and that is associated with this account. Okay, so this is the default VPC that we are referring. Now this default VPC is easily accessible over internet as it has public access. So the default VPC has public access to the internet. Okay, and if you see the instances that are put, so whenever you create an instance, it is created inside a VPC. Okay, so if you do not specify the subnet, then the instance is created inside the default VPC. Because why? Because this no subnet is provided. But what if you provide a subnet? Okay, so if you are providing a subnet, the instance will be created in that VPC. So if you create your own VPC instead of default VPC, you can create your own VPC and you can provide that VPC a subnet. So then your instance, you can give that subnet ID and it will get created inside your own VPC that you created. Okay, so that is very important. So the key here was whenever you create a new account, a default VPC is created. It has public access to the internet. If you don't provide subnet, then the instance is created in the default VPC, else it is created in your manually created VPC where you are using a subnet. Now it is important to understand like what type of DNS you can create in this VPC. Okay, so if you see, you can in the default VPC you can have public or private DNS names. So what are DNS names? In short, I'll explain. There are two types of DNS: public DNS. So here what happens is like list of domain names. So it is there, all there in the public registry. For example, google.com, all this publicly accessible over the internet. Yahoo.com, amazon.com, flipkart.com, those websites, they're all registered in the public DNS registry. But if you have your own company and within the company you have your own websites or in like your intranet, so that is your private DNS and that is maintained within your company. For example, you can have something sort of example.com/list.php that is for your internal purposes. So the message here is inside this default VPC, that default VPC you can have public DNS or private DNS, any of these. Now let's look uh, what happens if you are trying to create a VPC in a region. For example, you have a US region. In US, some suppose Ohio, and you have to create 7 VPCs. This one, suppose you want to create 7 VPCs. Now, can you create 7 VPCs in one region? The answer is no. Why? Let's look into it. So you can have only 5 VPCs created in one region. So that key number you have to remember. This is important for the exam. You can only have 5 VPCs in one region. If you want to create 7 VPCs, you want 7 VPCs, what to do? So create one more region, use one more region, for example, UK or London. and then have two VPCs there. That's a simple solution. So now you have seven VPCs. Now within the VPC, if you see within the VPC, you know, you have CIDRs. That also max limit is 5. Within VPC, you can only have 5 CIDRs. Okay, so you should remember this number both the ways, 5 and 5.